Hey everyone, SweetJohnnyCage here. Today I want to talk to you guys about World of Warcraft Legion. I was lucky enough to get selected into this beta on July 7th, so I've been playing it for about 23 days now, and I have a lot to say about it. To give you a brief overview of what I've been doing in the beta, I have primarily just been playing my Paladin. I main Holy, I quest as Retribution, and occasionally PvP as Retribution, not very often though. I've only been playing this character. I did the Warrior starting zone just to see what it's about and also get the Horde side of the intro story. But I haven't played Demon Hunters, and I haven't done Mythic Dungeons and no raiding. So also no professions. I made a pre-made character. I did not see the copy character button when I was making my character like a moron. So, you know, I don't have anything to say about professions in Legion. Primarily what I want to talk about is questing, the level 100 to 110 experience, and then what you're going to be doing, or what we're going to be doing, once we hit level 110 and we start questing in Suramar. And also a little bit on heroic dungeons and how dungeons are feeling. Storytelling, you know, just kind of the PvE experience. This will not cover PvP. So if you're looking for a PvP video, this isn't it. Sorry. I have 4 main points that I want to talk about today, the last 2 of which will be combined. First thing I'll talk about is world design, then I'll get into the questing experience, and then the last 2 things I'll talk about together are the endgame experience and storytelling. So let's get started. First up, we have world design. Now, this is going to be a broad topic, and I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of things. I'll start off by saying that the expansion intro storyline, I guess you would want to call it, like the intro experience into the storyline. As an Alliance player, you pretty much just siege the Broken Isles. Like, you're kind of just thrown right into it. It's pretty cool. You do a little bit on the docks of Stormwind, but not much. Get thrown right into the battle, and then at the end of it, some people die, and then you wind up back in Stormwind, and your questing starts there. There is somewhat of a similar vibe to when Death Knights show up in Stormwind, except now everyone participates. A Demon Hunter comes into Stormwind, says that the Burning Legion has infiltrated, and, you know, we gotta take care of it. I'll expose them for you if you trust me. He exposes that pretty much all the guards in Stormwind Keep are actually demons. You fight them, then the Demon Hunters are accepted into the, you know, into the Horde and Alliance, I guess. The same thing happens on both sides. And then you go from there. Then you get a call from Khadgar, who needs help moving Dalaran. They're moving Dalaran from Northrend into the Broken Isles, because that's going to be the base of operations, I guess, for the Horde and Alliance. It is still a sanctuary city. Dalaran is my favorite city, because Wrath is my favorite expansion, so it's really great to be back. And it has some really nice design changes that kind of update it and bring it up to code. So once Dalaran moves into the Broken Isles, you are in Dalaran now. And then you get your first class quest. Now, like I said, I've only played Paladins, and since it was a pre-made character, I was kind of only playing Retribution up until this point, because when you make a character, they give you a DPS class. I'm pretty sure if you get a Priest, you're thrown into Shadow. I know with my Warrior, I was thrown into Arms. But once you hit level 102, you can get the rest of the artifacts for the other specs. So you go off, you do your first class quest for your first artifact. Once that gets done, you're given your order hall, and from there, you can start your Legion questing experience in the Broken Isles, and that's where we'll get started. In your order hall, there is kind of like a battle board similar to the garrison mission board, where you send out your followers, and you also do this here, but not to the gross extreme that you were doing it in Warlords of Draenor. It's pretty tame, pretty cut back in Legion, which is a really, really nice change. But you will select what's called a strike point, and this will be the first zone that you want to quest in. The first 4 zones, meaning Azuna, val'sharah, High Mountain, and Stormheim, they all scale to your level. So you can do them in any order, and when you hit 110, those zones become level 110 zones. So it's nice. When you pick your first zone, you will then get a bit of a breadcrumb quest, go back to Dalaran, and there's a portal in your order hall to go back to Dalaran immediately. Go back to Dalaran, go to the Flight Master or something or other, and then you will get sent to that zone, and that's how you start questing there. Now, this is good and bad. I like the fact that you can quest anywhere. It's pretty nice, and no matter what zone I was in, I was able to party up with people, and there were people in every zone, and this is beta. There's only like a few 100,000 people in beta, compared to the millions that are still playing World of Warcraft. Is a really nice experience. But the problem is, and I'll get to this a little bit later, is that when you finish a zone and you get your Pillar of Creation, you bring it back to Dalaran, you immediately get a quest to just select the next strike point. There's no breadcrumbs going anywhere, but I'll get to that. So like I said, there's 4 zones. There's Azsuna, val'sharah, Stormheim, and High Mountain. Each of these zones is very unique. When I first learned about these zones, when Legion was first unveiled, I was kind of nervous. The reason I was nervous is because it seemed as if Blizzard took what people liked from Burning Crusade and Wrath and kind of just created zones to... I don't want to say pander. Pander is a really harsh word, but it seemed almost like fan service overkill. I'm happy to say that it's not. The zones are distinct. Yes, they offer different things. Azsuna is kind of just like a normal zone where you're fighting with the Alardi, the Demon Hunters, pushing back the Legion, fighting with humans, elves, everybody, pushing back the Legion. You're fighting Naga, and you get some interaction with Queen Azshara, or the Shade of Queen Azshara, very briefly. So it's nice. The next zone I did was val'sharah, and that was strictly Elven. That's pretty much all that's there. So it was very reminiscent of leveling my first Night Elf character, back in Teldrassil, back in Vanilla. And if you like elves, you'll like this zone. The next zone I did was High Mountain, and this zone is mountainous. Obviously, it's called High Mountain, but you quest with Tauren, and it doesn't matter if you are Horde or Alliance, you are still questing with Tauren. And if I had to compare this zone to something, I don't know, it's tough. Honestly, this is pretty unique. It has elements of Stone Talon with you're fighting a lot of Harpies. It has elements of Durotar because of all the Taurens. It has elements of a little bit of Grizzly Hills vibe, actually. A few sections of it have that. But it's unique. It's a mountainous zone, so you can't get too crazy with it, but it's unique, and it's new. The 4th and final zone that I did was Stormheim, and this is a Vrykul infested zone. I shouldn't say infested, because you actually quest with some of them for the most part. Now, I hope what I'm saying is illustrating my initial impressions. There are stark elements or distinct elements from Wrath and Burning Crusade, the 2 best expansions in the fans' eyes, including mine, in each zone. And it seems like they are kind of pushing this image of like, hey, come to Legion and you can quest with Vrykul again, or come to Legion and you'll fight the Burning Legion again like you did in Burning Crusade. And it is true, but each zone is gorgeous. Like, it's not just questing with Vrykul, it's not just fan service. There really is depth to it, and I can't stress that enough. My initial impressions were incorrect, and I'm happy for that. So that brings me into my next topic, questing. The quest flow of Legion is pretty good, I can't lie. There's a tiny bit of hand-holding in each zone, just kind of guiding you along a path, telling you a story, but for the most part, you have great questing freedom. Now, you can pick whatever zone you want to start in, after you finish the intro questing and you get your first artifact. From your order hall, you get to select a strike point, and it's one of the first 4 zones, either Azsuna, val'sharah, High Mountain, or Stormheim. And no matter which one you pick, you will start there. You can go back and just start in another one. You don't have to complete one to go to another. Doesn't matter. But you get a quest to go to Dalaran, and there's a portal for you in your order hall, and then you fly down into that zone, and you start questing. Now, there is a negative to this, and I'll save that for last. The questing in each zone is wonderful. The main mission in each zone is to get a Pillar of Creation, and you want to bring these back to Dalaran, give them to Khadgar. They hold him in like a shrine area, and he will be using these eventually to fight against the Legion. Each zone has 1 Pillar of Creation. The questing, you're going to follow a story arc, but it always ends in a dungeon quest, which I think is wonderful. And the reason I think it's so good is because it hasn't been done in a long time. In Mists and somewhat of Cataclysm, in Warlords, you didn't get too many dungeon quests from the world. And in Legion, the story arc literally ends every single time at the entrance to a dungeon. So, like, you get a quest and you're looking at the portal right in front of you. So it's like, time to queue up, let's do it, right? Like, you just kind of do it right away. Unless your DPS and your Q sucks, I'm sorry, I'm a healer, I don't have that problem. But yeah, so it's great, and it makes the dungeons feel like they're part of the world. And this is something that I felt was lacking in Warlords, and to the same extent in Mists. The dungeons were usually in areas that you never went to, right? Like the one that always comes to mind is Everbloom. I think I searched for like 20 minutes for that entrance on my own, and I just couldn't find it. It was very, very weird. In Legion, that's not the case. And what's really nice is that the portal entrances are actually on the map themselves once you find them. Once you find it, whether it's for a dungeon or a raid dungeon, the portal stays on the map, and it's either a blue icon for a dungeon or a green icon for a raid, so you can never lose it. Really great touch. We have the Pillars of Creation, and I'm going to spoil the story of Highmountain because to me, it is the best example of great storytelling and great player inclusion in the world. You feel like you have an impact, and it's no more prevalent than in Highmountain to me. So if you don't want to know the story of Highmountain, you don't want to know how the questing goes, click here. This is the timestamp for when I stop talking about it. Okay, great. So in Highmountain, you have to unite the Tauren tribes of the mountain. And the reason you have to do this is because there is someone out there who has the Pillar of Creation. It's a hammer, and he's using it to kind of wreak havoc and try to rule Highmountain for himself. Now, the Tauren tribes have been torn asunder for whatever reason, politics, war, doesn't matter. And you get your quests to find each person in the different sections of Highmountain. But what's really nice, and I want to say unique, is that when you finish a quest arc for, one of the people that you need to bring in, they actually show up in the main chamber of the Tauren hub in Highmountain. I'm struggling to remember a time when that's happened. I'm struggling to remember a time where when I was out questing, I was having a real impact on the world, and the world was changing because of what I was doing. So when you unite all the chieftains or all the people, and you bring them together and you unite the tribes, you then kind of like launch your final attack against the guy, and then it leads into a dungeon quest. So each zone is kind of like that. You're not uniting tribes in each zone, but what you're doing has impact. You're typically being guided along by someone, and that someone, there's usually a cool plot twist, or you're being led somewhere in each zone. It's the same in each zone, and it gets even better in Suramar, which is the level 110 zone, which we will get to at the end. I want to touch on two final topics for questing. First, exploration is rewarded generously, and that's no more apparent than in Suramar, so I'll talk about that more when I get to that. Second is the negative of the quest flow, and this is quite literally the only negative thing I have to say about it. There are no breadcrumbs that lead you from zone to zone to zone. To give you an example of what I mean, think of Wrath of the Lich King. The first zone I quested in was Borean Tundra. There was a quest that led me from Borean Tundra into Dragonblight, and as you progress towards completing that quest and bringing you into the next zone, the landscape changed in Borean Tundra. It got colder, there was more snow, there was more ice, and there was a very apparent transition when you got into Dragonblight, right? Like, the landscape changed because you were going to what was more or less like the start of the Ice Crown Glacier, right? Like that's where things started to get real. And the same thing in Howling Fjord. You got breadcrumbs to go into Grizzly Hills, and then Zuldrak, and then Ice Crown or whatever it was. The Old Doom place. Why can't I remember? It doesn't matter. But you got breadcrumbs to go to zone to zone to zone. That doesn't happen in Legion, and that's because you select where you want to start questing and where you want to continue questing, and everything scales to you. What I mean by that is that when you get your Pillar of Creation from a zone, you hand it into Khadgar, you automatically get a quest to return to your order hall and select your next strike point, the next zone you want to start questing in. Now, you don't have to finish a zone to start another. That you don't have to do that. It's not necessary, but typically that's what you're going to do because you want to get the pillar and then get another one. The problem here is that there's no cohesion between the zones. Nothing feels connected. And yeah, the zone is called the Broken Isles, but they're not really broken. There are roads leading between zone to zone. So it's a trade-off, really. I'm okay with it because the questing is so good and the zones are amazing, but it's apparent that there's a lack of cohesion, but it's a trade-off. What are you going to do? The last two things that I want to talk about I will be combining, which is storytelling and endgame. The reason I'm combining these is because the storytelling in the endgame zone is so damn good. When you either reach level 110 or you get your final Pillar of Creation, I cannot be sure which it is, and I just tried to look it up, and there's not a clear answer on it that I've found very quickly. But when either one of those happens, you get another quest from Khadgar called Khadgar's Discovery, and this is your breadcrumb quest leading into Suramar. And the way it happens is that some astral projection orb kind of deal finds its way into Dalaran, or he finds it, and it turns out that it's a elven woman who needs your help. So Khadgar creates a portal into Suramar, you click it, and you start questing. When you get to Suramar, you walk along a path, you're trying to find who this projected elven woman is, what she needs help for, what the problem is. You eventually find her, and when you do, she tells you that her name is First Arcanist Thalrissa, and I will mispronounce her name, guaranteed, because I can't pronounce elven names for some weird reason. She tells you that the leader of Suramar City, Grand Magistrix Elisand, was once a person of dignity. When Queen Azshara was kind of joining the Legion and going crazy, she resisted. Her and the Nightborn Elves resisted, and they created the Nightwell, which is what gave them their power, just like how the Night Elves have Moonwells and the Blood Elves have the Sunwell. So the Nightborn have the Nightwell. Now that the Legion has returned, they didn't really give her a choice this time, so now she is working with them. And as a result, anyone who resists is either killed or they run away, and they're exiled. Thalrissa is one of those exiles. And in order to kind of live and subsist without the Nightwell, you have to gather ancient mana for her to use. And kind of anybody that you come in contact with that's an exile, they need ancient mana to live. Eventually, when you finish the quests for her, for the most part, you find a cave. In this cave, when you walk into it, you are greeted with blue text, and you realize it's a sanctuary. The sanctuary is called Shalaran. And when you walk in, you just assume it's a cave, but as you get deeper and deeper, it kind of opens up. And it looks decorated, and it looks ornate, and it looks abandoned, like almost like an abandoned kind of city. And that's exactly what it is. And that's why Suramar is one of the best zones ever created in World of Warcraft. The questing experience in Suramar is amazing. It's really, really great. And the reason for that is because when you get Thalrissa into this cave and into Shalaran, she starts telling you what happened, how her people have been exiled, they're killed, and she wants to lead a revolution against Elisand. And it's pretty easy to convince you to do that. She sends you out to find a few people to help her. There is somebody who knows how to work teleporters around the zone, and you can literally activate these teleporters as you find them, and you find a lot of them on your own, and it allows you to go from Shalaran to pretty much any corner of the zone like that. It's super fast. There's also somebody who knows how the ley lines work in this area, and she can channel that energy and power up Shalaran. And after you find these people, that's kind of it, until you start exploring. And like I said, exploration is greatly rewarded in Legion, especially in Suramar. The story quests are actually hidden. You have to kind of walk around the zone and discover it for yourself. And you will eventually find quest givers that have fairly lengthy story arcs, and they count towards your Lore Master achievement. Like in the Dungeon Journal, where it says X of Y story quest completed, there are 11 story arcs, and I have 7 completed so far. And the majority of them I just found on my own. This is good and bad, because it eventually leads into a rep grind. And I say that with hesitation, because I don't think it's bad. My favorite kind of rep grind was actually for Firelands in the Molten Front. And I have noticed that people who started either in Mists or Warlords of Draenor have no idea this exists. And why would they, right? Because if you weren't playing in Cataclysm and you weren't, keeping up with daily content or raiding or just kind of playing throughout the expansion when these new questing areas would open up, you have no incentive to go do them. You would just complete the Hyjal questing area and then go to Deepholm, and you would just never know about it. The Molten Front, as you completed daily quests and increased your rep, you would kind of like start reclaiming the Firelands in a way. Like you kind of like built this cool tree, and you would have different areas to quest in every day, and it was neat. It was kind of unique and new, and it was an interesting idea. Unfortunately, it was relegated to just a daily questing hub for a raid tier, and once that raid tier ended, you had no incentive to go do it. Suramar, on the other hand, is a whole zone, and with the advent of world quests, you feel part of it, and you feel like you're helping this revolution against Elisand. There are goods and bads to this. The great thing about it is that there are 2 dungeons, 2 5-man dungeons, locked away behind reputation. They are not available in Group Finder, and you can't just walk in. You can find the portal, but when you walk in, it says you must progress the storyline of Suramar in order to enter or something like that. They are relegated to Mythic difficulty. I'm not 100% sure if this will be this way on launch, but for now, it's Mythic only. So these are like hardcore 5-man instances. When it comes to the rep grind, as you do world quests, and I'll talk about those in a minute, you do gain reputation every day. There's a finite amount each day that you can do, similar to dailies, but the quests are kind of different every day for the most part. There is one quest that you can sometimes get, it's random, that brings you into a scenario, and depending on how you perform in this scenario, you can get more and more reputation rewards. And this scenario has you take Withered Elves, which are kind of Nightfallen, which is the new faction. They are Nightfallen or Nightborn Elves that are kind of too far beyond using ancient mana to kind of like feed themselves. They're too far gone, but you can control them more or less. You use them as an army, and you kind of just keep going down and down and down into this area called Falinar, and the further you get, the more rep rewards you get. You could sometimes get gear, I'm assuming, out of the chest at the end, and it's difficult. Like, it is difficult, and it's fun. Unfortunately, you don't get it every day. That's the one thing I would change. I would like to see the ability to get that quest every single day and just work on it. The unfortunate aspect of this rep grind is that it is not clear what tiers, it's not clear what you get for each tier. When you become friendly with Nightfallen, that is probably the last faction that you will get friendly with, and in order to unlock world quests, you need to be friendly with all the factions in Broken Isles. World quests are similar to daily quests, except they are literally all throughout the world. So it's no longer that you log into World of Warcraft every single day, and you know I have to go to this exact area, do this exact quest every single day. They change, and there is an abundance of world quests, an abundance in each zone. Most people, I would assume, are just going to focus on the Nightfallen ones. But if you do them for the Wardens, that's typically going and downing, not world bosses, but elites in the world, and getting decent rewards for them, whether it be gear, or more reputation, or artifact power, what have you. I'm struggling to find out how to unlock these 2 dungeons. I don't know if it's behind Honored, I don't know if it's behind Revered, I don't know if it's behind Exalted. I can tell you right now it's not behind Friendly, but there have been people on the forums from previous beta builds that say they unlocked for me halfway through Friendly. Not the case anymore. At launch, I would just like to see more of like a, not a guide, but like a printout of like, here's what unlocks the Archway, here's what unlocks Court of Stars, which are the 2 5-man dungeons. Suramar, to me, represents a shift in the design and gameplay of World of Warcraft. For years, ever since I would say Cataclysm, we have kind of been given nothing at the end, right? It's especially apparent in Warlords of Draenor. When we hit level 100 in Warlords of Draenor, you had dailies, there were straight up rep grinds where you just had to kill mobs all day long and get exalted with, I forget the name, but Alliance and Horde had a faction where all you did was kill. And there really wasn't much. You kind of stuck to your garrison, did your garrison dailies, did your Pexus Crystal grind, did whatever rep grinds you wanted, did heroics and raided. There was no real story to play through anymore. We waited so long for Tanaan Jungle that by the time it came, I was completely disinterested. I think I did the first week of dailies in Tanaan and just stopped. It got so bad, so fast in Tanaan Jungle that I actually unsubscribed from the game in December 2015. Now, yeah, that's quite a while after Hellfire Citadel was released, I realize, but I think this might be the longest time that I've ever been unsubscribed from World of Warcraft, and playing the beta for Legion has made me resubscribe and make sure all my characters are caught up and ready. Suramar, on the other hand, in a stark contrast to Tanaan Jungle from Warlords, you still feel like you're part of something. You don't feel like you're just doing daily quests. You have an incentive to build up your reputation and further this cause against Elisand and Suramar City and fight the good fight. And that's unique. It's a shift. And when I say it's a shift, I mean that For years, we just got an endgame zone with daily quests, and the experience kind of stopped there. But now we're getting back into the vanilla TBC Wrath era, where there are plenty of quests just kind of tucked away in the zone. You're not led to them. You have to discover them on your own, and there are rewards at the end for doing that. You progress a story. You feel like you're part of the world again, and it's amazing. And I think what the design philosophy behind that from Blizzard was that, okay, we can't just shut it down and kind of go back to what we did before in vanilla Burning Crusade and Wrath. We need to transition people away from what we've been doing, stop the hand-holding, and trust the player again. Trust them to discover things, trust them to ask questions and help each other and form a community again. Like, I can't tell you how good trade chat is right now. I mean, granted, in beta you don't have nonstop spam bots, but people are asking questions. How do I do this? Where's this? What do I do in Surmore? How do I progress the storyline? How do I unlock the Arcway? How do I do this? It's great. It's wonderful. It feels like there's a community again. And yes, there's only 3 servers for beta, so like we're all sort of part of the same battle group, and there's only a few 100,000 people, so it's not as densely populated, and there's not as much spam, but it's great. I feel like I'm part of something in beta, and it's a feeling I haven't gotten from World of Warcraft in an extremely long time, and I'm really glad for it. Something I didn't mention that I wanted to talk about was order halls, and I'll make sure to put a graphic at the beginning of this video to indicate that I'm going to talk about this, because I can't believe I forgot about it. I can only speak for Paladins. I have played the Warrior intro zone, intro experience just to like get to the order hall. I didn't complete the artifact quest line or anything, I just wanted to see it for my own eyes. The Paladin order hall, though, is amazing. Like, sincerely great. And it makes me feel proud to be a Paladin in a way. It really does. And the reason for that is because our order hall is in the world, and all order halls are for the most part, but this is an order hall that you can actually walk to. The shamans, I know they feel like they got the shaft, and they kind of did, because they are in the Eye of Ashar, or they're in the Maelstrom, and it's just kind of rocks with vendors and stuff, so it's not... I can see shamans being upset about their order hall. Paladins, though, I'm more than happy. It's in Lightsoap Chapel, and for years and years, for like ever, there was rumored to be something beneath Lightsoap Chapel that gave it like the resistance that it had against the Blight, or against the Plague. And you experience this firsthand in the Death Knight starting zone, in the starting experience for Death Knights. And there's a power that kind of repels the Lich King, and he sends the Death Knights in to die. Like, he knows they will die at Lightsoap Chapel, because there's something buried beneath it that prevents them from winning. Now you get to know what it is. It's the Paladin Order Hall. The Order Hall features something that garrisons don't. And there was an option with garrisons to invite people into your garrison, but after, I would say, 6.0, like by the time Iron Docks came out, or whatever that was, like the first big content patch, people stopped doing it. There was not much incentive to do the garrison invasions. It kind of just died out, and you were alone. Order halls, however, everyone is in it. So when I walk into the Paladin Order Hall, there are other Paladins there. Not just NPC Paladins, players. There are actual players in my new garrison for the most part. Like, in my Order Hall, there are Paladins. If you're a rogue, there will be rogues in your Order Hall. Priests, shamans, warlocks, demon hunters, doesn't matter. There are people there, and you feel part of something. You feel an identity with your class. And for a lorehound like myself, and somebody who loves community in World of Warcraft, I can't be happier. I really can't. Like I said, there is a mission board in your Order Hall to send out followers, but you don't have like 30 followers like you used to. It's down to 8. 5 can be active at a time, I think. And then you have squires and just kind of like infantry troops that you could send out with them to just, for example, like if a mission calls for 3 followers, you can send out 2 like NPC followers, and then that if that increases the success chance to like 90% or something like that, you just throw out an infantryman to boost it up to 100 or higher for a bonus roll, and you can like save your NPCs for other quests. Great. The other cool aspect of the Order Hall is that each class has an Order Hall campaign, and this is a quest experience that you do play by yourself, but you get sent out into the world, and you have to do quests for the Paladins, or the Rogues, or the Shamans, or the Priests, and it kind of culminates with getting a massive upgrade to your artifact weapon. And the good thing about this is that for the Paladins, it's an amazing quest line. I loved it. It was so cool. We got to learn the fate of Terralion and Ilaria, and while we don't get to meet them, I'm sure they're coming, and that's leading me into my next point. It's short. You can complete that first when you hit 110. You just have to do, I shouldn't say first, but in order to do it, you need to complete 30 world quests. You need to do 2 other things. Get 10 Blood of Sargeras, which is a new crafting reagent, and then 50 of an item that you get from the mission boards. You got to send out your followers a few times, and then like there will always be a quest available to them to get 10 or 9 or 15, whatever, of these items. Once you complete those 3 objectives, you can complete your Order Hall campaign. You get the final breadcrumb into that. This is good and bad. It's good because the campaign is great. It's bad because it's short. I really, really sincerely hope that they're adding more to this, because I've been playing the beta for 3 weeks and I'm done. I've finished it. I got the achievement, complete your Order Hall campaign. There's nothing left. There's nothing left. And I just hope that they're going to keep adding it. In the past, they have said that, you know, when everybody was asking, can you do class quests again? They say that they take a long time to make, the equivalent of a dungeon. So I don't know what the size of the team is on Legion. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if they have a dedicated Order Hall campaign team to just make those quests, but I sincerely hope they're coming. Something that I noticed going back and catching my tunes up in Warlords of Draenor is that I have 0 incentive to do anything in my garrison anymore now that Legion is coming out. Nothing. Like, if I have a fresh 90 and I bring him into Draenor, I kind of make the garrison and forget about it. Like, I just do the mandatory quests and just keep going. 0 incentive. And that's bad. I really hope that there's still some sort of incentive with your Order Hall in the next expansion or the next 2 expansions, or however much there is left of World of Warcraft. With the artifact weapon, and I'll cover this really quickly, I'm okay with them for the most part. I think they're fine. What I don't like is the fact that Paladins get the Ashbringer. There's only one Ashbringer, and it's been wielded by Tyrion, almost the entire, and the Mograines and Tyrion, and it's always been an NPC who holds it, never anything else. Now that every Paladin in existence has an Ashbringer, it loses its luster. It's no longer like some unbelievable legendary item that, you know, so few people have. And that's kind of the reason that they stopped the quest line in vanilla. They didn't want too many people getting it because it was such a unique item. That's the reason that we didn't get Frostmourne. We got Shadowmourne instead. It was forged from the fragments of Shadowmourne. It confuses me why they kind of went back on that philosophy and then just gave people Ashbringer. Now, the cool thing about artifact weapons is that you upgrade them, and you get artifact power either through quest rewards or dungeon rewards, and you kind of like funnel it all into an artifact weapon and you upgrade it. And you get traits, and it's like a new talent tree for your weapon. It's great. I'm just curious what's going to happen in the next expansion. Are we going to hand that artifact off to an NPC? This way we won't use it anymore, or will we carry it in? Who knows? Only time will tell. The last thing that I'll talk about in this video is expansion rankings. I'll do it from best to worst, or worst to best, actually. I think that's better. So, disclaimer, I did not play Burning Crusade. I had some real life stuff going on for a while, didn't play it. I played Vanilla, skipped Burning Crusade, played Wrath until now. So, the worst for me would be Warlords of Draenor. You felt alone, you didn't feel like you had much of an impact, the story was all over the place, and you're still kind of feeling the impact of that story because Gul'dan is summoning the Legion into our world now, but he's not from our world, so is this another Burning Legion? Is this the same Burning Legion? What are we dealing with? If you could just stop thinking about it, it's fine. But Warlords is absolutely the worst. Next would be Mists. I felt no connection to that world. It felt like we kind of just went to Pandaria, started a war, and left. There's no incentive to ever go back to Pandaria now. None. And that's kind of the cool thing about Legion is that I've been sent to Northrend a couple times now. And that's great. Like, my Order Hall is in Eastern Kingdoms. You know, I'm not just stuck on Broken Isles forever. I'm out in the world doing things, and that's great. Next up would be Cataclysm. I liked the 1 through 60 revamp. Perfect. I like the new world. I do miss the vanilla world, and, you know, I have vanilla videos out there from private servers and stuff, but it was a much needed revamp. And, you know, for new players, it kind of sped up the questing experience to catch up to the end game. The new zones were great. I loved Hyjal. I loved Old Doom. I loved Twilight Highlands. Deep Home has a special place in my heart. I'm not thrilled with it, but it is what it is. The water zone can go die in a fire, although that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so Cataclysm was good. I just dislike Dragon Soul a lot, but I loved Firelands and I loved Tier 11. Next would be, this is where I would put Burning Crusade, simply because I haven't played it. So, yeah, I would tie Legion to this spot too. Didn't play Burning Crusade, but I put Legion here. It's fixing problems that the other expansions have caused. And there is a very earnest feeling to Legion. I feel like Blizzard cares again. I feel like they want to throw us out into the world. I feel like they're trying to build a community again. And that really shines through in this expansion. Will it have problems? Sure. I haven't raided. I haven't done Mythic Dungeons. We don't know how the story is going to play out, you know, throughout the other 2 tiers of raiding that are going to come. I hope it's 2. But yeah, I'm excited again. I'm excited for World of Warcraft again. And having played this beta in excess for the most part, like I'm stopping here. I'm not going to get revered with Nightfall. I'm not going to get exalted. I may do the first wing of LFR. I think I can get into it. I'll try Mythic Dungeons if I can get to it in my spare time. But I'm stopping here in the beta, and I'm excited again. It's getting me excited for World of Warcraft. We'll see where I rank it at the end, but for now, Legion is 3rd. Next would be Wrath. Wrath is my absolute favorite expansion. Yes, it introduced Group Finder, but it introduced it at the very end, or Dungeon Finder. It introduced it at the very end, and it didn't have too bad of an impact. The storytelling in Wrath is like second to none to me. The Lich King and Arthas is my favorite story arc ever. I cried reading that book. Great. Northrend's it's just my personal favorite. And then the best is obviously vanilla, and for obvious reasons. I mean, we want private servers for a reason. We want vanilla servers for a reason, right? Like, we want to be able to play on those servers for a reason, because it's the best. We're not asking for Wrath servers. We're not asking for Burning Crusade servers. We're asking for vanilla servers. If we can get all 3, that'd be sick, but vanilla is obviously the best, because that's where I started. That's where I met the bulk of my friends, and that's where I hold the most fond memories. In short, Legion is shaping up to be the best expansion in years since Wrath. The storytelling is great, the quest flow is great, the dungeons are great. I didn't even talk about those, and they are just so unique and so much fun, and the aesthetic of them is so cool. Vault of the Wardens is my favorite. I haven't done Archway of Court of Stars yet, though, but it's shaping up to be great. I would encourage you to get it. I have it pre-ordered simply because I have to finish my collection of collector's editions, you know, until the end. But playing this beta made me excited for release, and I wasn't very excited for release. I was actually not really looking forward to it. I kind of assumed that I would buy the collector's edition, play it until I hit 110, and then stop. But I don't see that happening. I see myself playing, trying to commit to Mythic Dungeons, maybe raiding a little, and really playing World of Warcraft again. Whether or not my friends come back is up to them, but I've actually met a few cool people on beta that hopefully I could play with. I have their battle tags now. I recommend World of Warcraft Legion from playing this beta. There are problems, there will always be problems, but the positives far outweigh the negatives, and I really hope that came through in this video. My expectations have been met and exceeded with this beta, and I'm excited. I can't say that enough. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments. I love talking about World of Warcraft. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and I only want to see this game do well. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see other videos like it, please be sure to subscribe. And also, share it with your friends, leave a thumbs up, all that cool stuff. You can also check out my website, SweetJohnnyCage.com. This is an archival website where I have pretty much every video that I've ever done from back in 2007, 2008 from Video Game Central to the present. You can find me on Twitch. I stream pretty often, maybe once or twice a week. I tried committing to a schedule, but it just didn't work out. But I do stream a decent amount. I've been streaming the Legion beta, so if you want to see that, be sure to throw me a follow on there. The best place to get in touch with me is through social media. Twitter's the best place. My handle is @SJCage. All right, guys. As always, I'm SweetJohnnyCage. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.